All right, well, thank you for your interest in G5 Consulting. I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about who we are and some of the things that we're doing. So I started the company in 2019, and that was really in response to what I saw as a proliferation of a lot of software solutions and platforms that were claiming to be these IIoT platforms. And what I found is that people were very confused by what that is and what that meant. And so many companies were crawling out of the woodwork. I literally had a customer tell me he would get 100 calls a day from somebody that had some kind of platform that they wanted to sell them. And so I took a step back and realized people really need to first understand what Industry 4.0 is, what IIoT is, what digital transformation is, and then help guide them along that path. Because of my background within reliability, I still see that as a way for American manufacturers to compete in a global economy. And so much of what it is that I'm focused on is around that reliability area in terms of what does that mean in terms of digital transformation. So there's really three businesses or three aspects to the business. The first is just consulting, and that's really developing the how do we do digital transformation? There's also engineering services or solution architecture around, okay, now that we know what we want to do, how do we do it? And then finally, there's project management, and that's generally because most of these efforts involve some kind of project that's to it. Again, keep in mind, digital transformation is a strategy, not a project. And then it can also be just basic. We have a punch list, some things need to get done, so we have those capabilities. Really, at the end of the day, my business is to help companies develop and execute strategies for their digital transformation and their asset performance management. So everything I do is to that end. So when I talk about the consulting part, I like to start off with what is known as the Purdue Model or the ISA 95. And many people are familiar with the stack. And what ISA 95 is it's really defines what type of data exists within an enterprise and where should that data be located. And so the graphic that you're looking at is should be very familiar to you. So at the top, you'll have your ERP. Then you'll get into that MES, MOM layer, that's your manufacturing execution system, which then will talk to your SCADA system or your control system, and finally landing with devices at the bottom. And people are very familiar with this. The challenge, of course, is that this is what people are trying to do in order to do or use this same model to do their digital transformation. So what I propose is that they get into what I call the unified namespace. And so what the unified namespace does is it's this, it's really more of I guess call it a data hub, but it's the single source of truth for all of your data and your events. And it also provides the structure. So rather than having all of these systems connecting and having these bespoke connections from one to the next, every one of those business systems operates as a node within that unified namespace. And so there's 4 tenets to using the unified namespace that I want to make sure that I'm utilizing. It's a technology first approach where that technology is going to use an open architecture. It uses lightweight communication, it's report by exception, and it's edge driven. So any one of these nodes that wants to publish data to the unified namespace, any node now that wants to consume that data has access to it. And then also I can consume that data as well as a node so that all that information is available in real time to any system that needs to publish and or subscribe to it. From an engineering standpoint, I do start off being a technology agnostic company. Having said that, there are some preferred brands that I work with, and it's just because I found them to be best in class in terms of what it is that they're trying to do from a functionality standpoint. So you can see it's Canary Labs from a historian, Flow for some analytic software. I use TatSoft Factory Studio, Inductive Automation Ignition, of course, Opto 22 should come as no surprise, and Maple Systems for things like Gateway and the like, HighByte. Is generally my tool for creating a unified namespace that allows me to put data into context. And of course, at the center of all this, I use an MQTT broker that supports SparkPlug-B. HiveMQ tends to be my standard, but there's many great MQTT brokers that are available to you. I mentioned a little bit about project management. I utilize the PMBOK standard. As I mentioned, most of these efforts, there's going to be made up of a lot of small projects that will then help you realize your digital transformation strategy. And it can be anything from a punch list. And of course, I also utilize both a waterfall and an agile project approach. I will emphasize that if you're going to do digital transformation, you do want to use an agile strategy, because the decision that you make today is based on the information that you have today. The decision you have 4 weeks from now might be very different with the new information that's going to be revealed. I tend to use a Kanban approach just because I like to be able to see things on a screen that's easily understood by many people. And then, of course, just because there are some brands that I do just want to be a reseller for, I am a representative for several products that are available. Most of them are around the reliability space. And that's only just because from a commercial standpoint, as projects come and go, it's nice to have just some ongoing revenue based around how do we execute against that reliability strategy. Certainly the main focus of the business is that consulting, engineering, and project management capabilities. Because of my 25 years experience in process control and automation, I've had exposure to a lot of different markets. While I tend to focus mostly in that upper Midwest area of the United States, I have had responsibility for a lot of markets that you may not expect to find here, oil and gas being one of them. Fundamentally right now, it is food and beverage, consumer packaged goods. We do have a lot of pulp and paper up here, but there are other markets that I'm very knowledgeable about as well. Because it's important to me to be involved in a number of professional organizations, I am active on a number of committees within these. Predominantly, it is within ISA, but the Society of Maintenance and Reliability Professionals and PMI, I'm a member of those organizations as well. And again, that just provides an opportunity to ensure that people understand what's happening within project management as it relates to digital transformation, or within SMRP, even within ISA. And then, of course, I do have some certifications as well, being a CMRP and a CRL. And of course, I am also a PMP. So coming to an end here, when you start to begin your journey, there are 5 aspects of the business that I think are very important for people to know. For starters, I use the best people. And the beauty of being part of a larger community is that regardless of whatever the solution is, I have access to a number of other system integrators and access to a lot of people that are going to be the most knowledgeable about whatever that system is that we're working on. I'm very collaborative, and I'm part of a community that provides access to those experts. So it is always bringing in the best people. We follow a defined process. So everything that we work against is always going to be, there is a defined process for how we're going to go from A to B. That is all documented. There is a journey and a roadmap that I know will provide the biggest opportunity for your success as you go about executing against your digital 4.0 or your digital transformation strategy. And I like using the right technology. And some people will say, oh, you want to use the best. For me, the right technology is the technology that, again, meets the minimum technical requirements, but it's also the technology that you can support within your organization. And I've been involved in projects before where some great piece of technology showed up, but nobody knew how to use it, and ultimately it failed. Coming to the last 2 points, always want to use robust solutions. So again, this is going to be software that's not coming from some fly-by-night organization. It's going to use standards and best practices for whatever that functionality is going to exist in there, so you know that it's going to be with you and supportable long-term. And then finally, we want long-term results. At the end of this, we want to make sure that whatever it is that you're doing at the end of your digital transformation journey, and again, keep in mind, this is never ending, but every time you come to that mile marker, you know that whatever is out there is going to provide significant value for the organization. So thank you for stopping by. I appreciate you taking a look at G5 Consulting and the services that we can provide.